and the all-important notarial archives of Amsterdam, but there are lots of other archives which are interesting for Portuguese-Jewish genealogy. I will be talking about the orphan chamber, two registers specifically, one about the appointments of guardians of minor children, and one about the Calis registers. I will explain that. The second subject is collateral succession. In Amsterdam, a fee, a tax was levied when somebody died and he had no children. Then he had to pay, his inheritors had to pay taxes, 10% or 5%. Next, I will talk about insolvency, bankruptcy, on the Chamber of Insolvent Estates. And if there's still time left, I will show something about taxes and then family archives. So I'll start with the orphan chamber. Yes. And I'll start with an example. Suppose one of the partners in the marriage dies and the couple had children. If there was a last will, it would have named executors and guardians of the minor children. It would also have had a sentence that excluded the orphan chamber from interference in that situation. But if there was no will, the laws of Amsterdam stipulated that the orphan chamber had the right to appoint guardians of the minor children to protect their interests. The appointments of guardians were noted in the separate registers within the archives of the chamber. Entry number for the archives in Amsterdam is 5073. And if you see the registers, mostly they have indexes. This will be a live presentation, by the way. Here we have the case of David Cohen-Nassi.
Ton, we can't see the screen you're showing. We can just see the overview window.
Oh shit.
Indeed.
Then I have to work from the overview. You see that there are many registers, and they do not only have Jews, of course, they also have Catholics, Protestants, etc. The way to search here is...
So sorry, we're still just seeing the overview window. Can you perhaps copy and paste the URL into a sort of new window next to your open window with the overview?
Let's try. Does this work?
No.
It's worked for me. Um,
if you just open a tab next to the inbox window, which is open, and copy the link into there, then hopefully we can see that.
oh, you see my inbox window.
Yeah, we can only see the overview, the PowerPoint.
Aha. I opened the wrong window then. I stop sharing.
Okay. Perfect.
Okay.
Great.
Let's try it again. Now you see it? David Cohen Nasi?
Yes.
Okay. David Cohen Nasi died somewhere in 1685. We don't know the exact date. There's no burial in Amsterdam, no burial in Suriname, where he lived. So if someone knows where David Cohen Nasi is buried, we would like to know. He died, and he had one son with Esther Fastia, and the child names is Joshua here. Esther Fastia is here. Trouble is, David Cohen Nasi was married to Ribka Drago. So obviously this is an alleged child, and the suspicion is that Esther Fastia was one who belonged to his household, or maybe even a slave. What happens here is that the orphan chamber appoints Joshua Cohen de Faro and Abraham Mokata to be the guardians and the administrators of the estate of Joshua Cohen. And they have to look after his interests, administrate what he has, and give an account to the orphan chamber. David Cohen Nasi was a professional colonizer who started Jewish colonies in the Caribbean, in Guyana, on Curaçao, and Suriname. Alas, there is no later registration of what happened to Joshua Cohen. We don't know whatever happened to him. Next up is Aaron Dagular. He was a brother of the famous Moses Moses Raphael Dagular, a teacher in Amsterdam and famous publicist. Aaron Dagular died before the 4th of September 1685, and he was married to Branka Baru. He had twin children, Jacob and Daniel, 11 years old. As guardians, he appoints Isaac and David the Aaron Dagular. And these were the brothers of major age of the twins. And they have to look after his interests. And another entry here mentions that David and Isaac the Aaron Dagelaar, finished their guardianship and turned it back to the orphan chamber. And the orphan chamber appointed Jacob de Grijp, Johan Six of the famous Six family, and Constantijn Ranst, weesmeesteren or orphan masters. And then the last entry, Abraham Dagelaar, and he is by now a major brother also of the twins. He has examined the administration of Jacob de Grijp about the estate. He says that he received the sum of 4 guilders and 5 stuivers from de Grijp. And because there was nothing left to administrate, in other words, whatever money Aaron Dagelaar had left was gone, de Grijp has been discharged as orphan master and guardian over the twins. So we have here a family, a nuclear family of Aaron Dagelaar and Branka Baru. Both have died. You have at least 5 sons, David and Aaron, major, Isaac and Daniel, minor, and Abraham, who turns up in 1694. There may have been other children, girls, maybe. Next, we go to the Caders registers. If someone wished to remarry, he had to deal with the orphan chamber. And I'm presenting here an example of Naftali Aser, apotheker. He was a Sephardim. And he was a pharmacist. And he was the widow of Gregoria de Asambuchara. I can't place that name, but apparently she is Sephardic too. And he will marry Rosa Gomez of Bayona. Naftali Aser is from Psoria. That sounds Italian to me, but maybe David knows better. In the margin of this marriage ban, you see Weeskamer voldaan. It's abbreviated as a W, then Kamer, and then voldaan. It means that the orphan chamber has been satisfied on the 16th of June, 1684. Now we go to the orphan chambers for, I hope, Naftali Aser. Here he is, Naftali Aser, and you see the date, 16 June, 1684. Naftali Aser, pharmacist, has 5 children with Gregoria de Asambuchar, and she is buried in Ouderkerk, but he has no means. So there's nothing to declare to the orphan chamber for the interests of the children. And as guardian is, no, as witness, he turns up Moses alias Antonio Henriquez, the uncle. This may be the uncle of Gregoria or of Naphtali. But it doesn't say this, so there's some more work to be done to find that out. Naphtali and Azer, by the way, also was the pharmacist for the Portuguese-Jewish community to dole out medicine to the poor. Here we have another marriage ban, this time from, if it opens up, let me find the right one. Abraham Saportas. He was a son of Jacob Saportas, who had been a Chacham in Hamburg, in Amsterdam, in London, and again in Amsterdam. And you can see that Abraham Saportas has been born in London. That may have been while his father was Chacham over there. He was a widow of Esther Saportas. She must have been related, but we don't know how. And his second marriage is to Rebecca Medina Lobo from Middelburg. And she is assisted with her father, Joseph de Medina Lobo. And that's a famous family from Middelburg. This marriage ban has been crossed out, but there's another marriage ban that is not crossed out. Here it says niet gecompareerd. I couldn't find the correct marriage ban immediately. Here also crossed out hij weeskamer. So he also proved himself to the orphan chamber. And let us see what he has to say about his children. No, sorry. Turns up to the same. Oh shit. Oh, then I have to tell you what it says in there. Abraham Saportas also didn't have much money or goods. And his witness is a nephew, David Aboab Cardoza. And as it happens, the French publication Genealogy has the latest number, which arrived on my doormat just a few days ago, has an article about Les Saportas du Nouveau Monde. And they deal with the descendants of this Abraham Saportas and his two wives. And they went all over the world. To Curaçao, to Bordeaux, Martinique, San Domingo, Charleston, Philadelphia, San Francisco, St. Thomas. Genealogy is a very well respected magazine. It has lots of articles on Sephardic families, and you can join it as a member if you wish. Next, I will talk about collateral succession. Collateral succession is when somebody died without children. Then the estate was inherited by the sidelines, that is, brothers, sisters, parents, cousins, and the inheritor had to pay taxes over real estate and bonds, amounting to 5%. The tax was levied by city administration, so the archives concerning this tax are kept by the city and later by the city archives of Amsterdam. The entry number for the archives is 5046. And the first one example of the administrative record concerning Joseph Pardo says that he dies on the 24th of August, 1755. First, an inventory of the goods that he has is made, but only of his real estate and of certain bonds that he has. It's 9/16 parts of 2,000 pounds in capital actions in the Bank of England. And that amounts to 14,911 guilders. He also has a plantation, a sugar and coffee plantation and houses, warehouses in the colony of Suriname, amounting to the worth of 9,600 and some guilders. In total, 24,500. This will be inherited to the one brother that he has left. And this is the way that they solved how much he had to pay. There's first of all this. The 8,177 guilders, and over these bonds in the Bank of England, he has to pay 408 guilders. Before that, it says 20 PN. PN stands for penny. It's the 20th penny, so it's a tax of 1 penny and 20 that he has to pay. That is 5%. But over his real estate, he has to pay 1 penny and 10. So that amounts to 1/10 of 16,354. And then there's some extra costs or something that he has to pay. And the total amount his brother has to pay is 2,267. The announcement of the death and the rest has been reported by David Jesserun, and he is the Gabbai penningmeester of the Portuguese-Jewish nation in Amsterdam. And he does this because he's one of the executors of the testament of Joseph Pardo. Joseph Pardo made the last will. He mentioned the Mahamat of Amsterdam as his executors. They did this. They divided the money. They inventoried what there was. The brother Abraham still lived in Suriname. And Joseph and Abraham Pardo were sons of Ghazan David Pardo of London. They were both born in London before 1700. And so were their brothers and sisters. And there were 7 children in all. They died one by one. And each of them left towards his brothers and sisters with a last will or without a last will. David Pardo left London for Amsterdam, went to Suriname in 1709. I don't know if he bought the plantation or that the sons did, but the plantation was called Carthago, and the gravestone of Abraham Pardo says that he was a lover of science. Perhaps from there he came to the name Carthago. And that also appears from the names of his slaves, who he named Plato, Euripides, Aristoteles, etc. And you may see that these slaves are not valued, they are not named here, and there is no taxes to be paid for those slaves. And that is because the collateral succession was only levied on real estate and on certain bonds, obligations. Another example, Sarah Gomez Cáceres. Again, it states when she died, 20 February 1761, at 4 o'clock. Nice detail. And she has a house in the Zwanenburgstraat. And it's a house with the Blauwe Brug in Den Gevel. That's a stone with an image which was put upon the front of the house. The house is worth 8,900 guilders, which is middle class in Amsterdam. It pays a rent for 695. Why is a rent mentioned? That's because Sarah Gomez Cáceres lived on Curaçao. And this was her possession and her brother's possession. So she will have rented it out. Next are some bonds, 1,000 guilders each, and the whole estate amounts to 14,900 guilders. She has to pay 10%, 490. And at the bottom is Jacob Gomez Cáceres. He is her brother, and he died on the same date, 20 February, at night at 10 o'clock. And that's why Sarah is on top, because she died earlier than he did. Let me see. Yeah. On the next page is the rest of the what has to be paid. Then there's a declaration that has been done by Salomon Henriques Ferreira. And he has a proxy of David Gomez Caceres. And he is the inheritor of Jacob and the inheritor of Sarah, widow of Abraham Gomez Caceres. So again, we have a family constellation here, which I can't reconstruct precisely, but I think it's two brothers, one sister, and two of them die shortly after one another, leaving only David Gomez Caceres to inherit. Why is there a proxy? That's because David also lived on Curaçao. Let's talk about the house. Amsterdamse Gevelsteen en de Blauwbrug over den Amstel. This is about the house. This is the stone that was there until 1963. The house was taken down because it was in the Jewish neighborhood on the spot where now Amsterdam City Hall and the Opera House are standing. This is the original, I think, and this has been colored in, I don't know precisely how they did that, digitally or manually. Furthermore, it says that the house was built by Michael Kraai. It was bought by members of the family Ferreira. And we will see. This is another register that is of importance to Sephardic genealogy, but which has not been used overly much. Here we see members of the family Henriques Ferreira, and they are all summed up, all the owners. And they sell the house to, and that's on the next page, I think. Sarah Gomez Caceres, widow of Abraham David Gomez Caceres. This is in the so-called registers kwijtscheldingen. And these deal only with real estate, houses in Amsterdam. They are online and they have also been indexed, and you find the index in the indexen on the site of the Amsterdam City Archives. By the way, Henriques Ferreira is a family that also later went to Suriname. Next up is the archives of the commission of the insolvent estates, the desolate boedelkamer. There's an introduction which is also always useful to read, but if you've read it, you can click it away to the right here, and you'll only see the archives. You have to click your way through to what it says here, restant, akkoorden. And here you will find thousands upon thousands of agreements, of cases where there's a case of bankruptcy. We'll go straight to an example. And there's a drawback here. There are so many estates that sometimes it takes a long time to open up, but it will at some point appear magically. You just need to have some patience for this. At least I hope it will be there. Yeah. I linked to the interesting signatures, but I want to show you first. This is an agreement between a bankrupt person, in this case Simon Francisco Bernal. His business is in jeopardy. Why? He does not make clear. But he says that he will pay all of his debts, but only 25%, 25%. And he will do that in 2 installments, 20% immediately and 5% in 6 months. And for those 5%, he has a few persons who stand surety, David Harari and Isaac Bernal. And Isaac Bernal, by consequence, must have been family of his. This agreement is signed by Simon. He has a beautiful signature. By the person who stands surety for him, Isaac Bernal, who may or may not have been a brother, David Harari, and all those creditors. And you can see here that he has a lot of Jewish clients, but also some Christian ones. And then there's someone who signs for Rachel de Castro, who seems to have been a minor. And there's always a sort of balance. These are the creditors. These are the amounts that Bernal owes to them. 20% which they get immediately, and 5% which they get later on. And you see all the names of all those who signed. And here are some unsigned creditors. They were not present at the time that the agreement was made up, but apparently they still have rights to the money. Another example. And again, this will take some time to open up, so I'll take a sip of water.
Well, whilst we're waiting, can I ask a quick question? Because these documents are all in Dutch, and I think a number of us here have been busy learning Portuguese for the last couple of years. And Dutch, as close as it is to English, is quite difficult for us to read. Do you have any suggestions as how to do it. I don't know if, for example, there's a transcribers project for Dutch, so we can just like right click on Google Translate.
Yes, there is a transcribers project for Dutch. It's also done by the Amsterdam City Archives, and they have done a lot of work on this already, but apparently it's all concentrated on the notarial archives. I can't foresee when they will be able to transcribe all these documents.
Okay. So we'll just have to learn Dutch.
Yeah, or you have to do it yourself.
Yeah.
So this is about Samuel of Joseph Ricardo, and he agrees to pay, and it's here, 1%, 1%. So he's really broke. In the last example, Simon Bernal was bailed out by the people who stood surety for him. But Samuel Ricardo has no means. And I'm going to skip a few pages. Here's the agreement that he signs. Here are all his debtors, creditors, sorry. And you can see that his clientele was exclusively Jewish. I don't know what kind of business he had, but it could be a shop. On the other hand, the amounts that people owe him, and they are on another page. No, one back, too quick. Here are his creditors, and you see amounts like 75 guilders. But then his family, David Ricardo Jr., has a credit of 3,800 and something to his name on the estate of Samuel Ricardo. So what he gets paid in the end is 38 guilders. And for that, you have to sell off all of the inventory of the business of Samuel Ricardo. And next are some more normal amounts, but here's Jacob Mendes de Leon, and he is owed 2,394 guilders. That's quite a large sum. I think they may have loaned money to Samuel Ricardo. And if that is, then there will be records in the notarial archives. Is there still time? Do you want me to go on?
Yeah. If you can, yes.
Yeah, okay. This is from 1674. In 1674, the Republic had just had a war with 4 nations, France, Munster, Oldenburg, and England, and they invaded Holland from all sides. Someone had to pay for it. Among them, the citizens of Amsterdam, and they have large folio registers in which all the names of those who were assessed for the wells who had to pay the 200 penning. So 200 spending, that's 0.5% of their wealth should go to the city of Amsterdam first, and from there to the province of Holland, and from there to the Republic of the 7 provinces, to pay for the expenses that were incurred during the war in 1672. And the nice thing of this register is that it puts all the Jews together. So what we have here are the the most wealthy Jews, Portuguese Jews, and Ashkenazi Jews of Amsterdam in 1674. And they pay like 70 guilders or 10 guilders, 0.5% of your wealth. I don't know. His wealth is 1,000 guilders, I think, 2,000 guilders. And this list goes on for about 30 pages. Sometimes it has extras like an occupation, makelaar or broker. And sometimes it has family members. But the list contains the names of everyone that was deemed worthy to pay. And the richest one of them all is Anthony Lopez Suazo, Baron of Havana. He has to pay 1,155 guilders, 22,000. He will be worth some 220,000 guilders, I suppose. There's no index to this, but just for fun, I'll put the link in chat. So you can peruse it for yourself. Then this is another text, also 200 penny for another war, but this time exclusively with the English. And this was levied by the ridderschap, nobility, and the cities of the lands of Holland and West Friesland. This is the province of Holland. And they levy the 200 penny, in this case, on Abraham Isaac Belmonte. He has to pay 200 guilders. You can calculate his wealth from there. But Abraham Isaac Belmonte files an objection with the city of Amsterdam, with the province of Holland. And the province of Holland gives the request of Abraham Belmonte in the hands of the mayors of Amsterdam. And this is a document in motion. You can see how an administrative process works out. And mayors of Amsterdam gave the job of looking into this to the rekenmeester or bookkeeper of Amsterdam. And he testifies that this person indeed has no capital. And the reason for that, he says here, is the war with England. For the mayor of Amsterdam, there remains only to conclude there's nothing to be gained and pursuing Belmonte for the amount of money that he has to pay. Then family archives. First of all, there has been the Stichting Nederlands-Joods Familiearchief, Foundation Netherlands Jewish Family Archives. There's a short history here, and here are the archives. Now, this is about the board, and this is about the work they did. And you have to have activiteiten. And then I believe it's this one. Oh. Well, there is a yeah, here we are. There is a list of publications they did. It's here. Here you find genealogies of Jewish people, and among them are also Portuguese-Jewish families. Or you can search in this box for a family you wish to look at. Another name. Here's a genealogy of the family Ricardo. It's very good, very simple. There's the direct line, straight line, and begins way in the past in 16, well, very early, even 1600. And this is the result of an investigation that they did. And they have other family trees that are somewhat more extent. Let's try again, Leon Mendes, maybe. You may find something, and you may find a name that you want to see, but you haven't, but that hasn't been digitized. Then the simplest thing to do is to click here, scans aanvragen, ask for scans, fill in your name, and email address, and then click aanvragen. And in a few weeks time, you will get a message that this has been digitized, and you can you can look at it yourself from your home. And this service is for free. And this goes for everything that you see on the Amsterdam City Archives website. If something has not been digitized, just ask for it. And in a few weeks or maybe months' times, you will get to see the results. With the exception of material that is either privacy protected or is in too bad a state to be digitized. And then there are some family archives from Teixeira de Matos, for example, imported family. And it's organized like this. It's organized according to branch. First you find the branch of the family Teixeira de Matos, and then there's a sub-branch, and there will be sub-branches. And then there are families that are related. Click on it and it will fold out. And there's a lot that has not been digitized, but is very interesting. Another one, and that's the last one that I will show, that's from the family Da Costa. Da Costa was also an important Portuguese-Jewish family. And the family stuck to its family papers, and in the end gave it to the City Archives of Amsterdam, who put it available either in their on the spot or online. And there are two things I wish to show you here. One is the family tree of the family de Crasto, Tartas de Crasto. And to my mind, this is one of the more beautiful family trees that I ever have seen. And it starts with Abraham de Castro. He has four sons, no, 3 sons, 1 daughter. And Isaac de Castro is the one who was burnt at the stake in Spain in 1648. A lot has been written about him. And you find here a family tree that's a bit hard to follow because of the lines surfing along. And as far as I can see, it's mostly correct. You see here and there someone with a crown, and that indicates that that line ended without children. And that said, I believe this family tree was made because of a family dispute concerning the estate of Josiah Tartas, who left a lot of family, had no children, and stipulated in his last will that all his Sephardic relatives were eligible for a part of the rent on his capital each year. And in the 1930s, there was still a Bureau Tartas within the Portuguese community that doled out the money of Joshua. So they needed a family tree, and someone made this tree. So it was taken, I think, from the dossier about the estate of Joshua Tartas, and that's why these crowns are here. So this one had no offspring, so anyone claiming that he descended from him will be objected to. with this, I stop sharing. Thank you for watching.
Thank you. Before you sort of unshare everything, is it possible for you to perhaps share a little spreadsheet on the Patreon page with the various links to the various
Yes,
categories?
I can do that.
Thank you. And for the earlier ones, is it merely a matter of just going to the Amsterdam website, clicking on the index page and putting in the family name, or is it more complex? I'm thinking specifically about the orphans and the sort of probate related documents.
Okay. Yeah, let me look one up. Orphan Chamber, Aaron de Aguilar. All these registers, most registers have indexes in the back.
Okay.
The fastest way to get there is to go to the scan overview and go to the last page. And here you already see the index. And as you can see, it's on given name, and that's a handicap. So you will have to read through all of it. The best thing to have is have a clue that there might have been something in these archives. And without a clue, yeah, you have to go through the indexes. Go.
Benjamin de Medina.
Here's the index of the letter A, and you just go through them looking for the name you're looking for. And as you can see, there are a lot of non-Jewish persons here as well. Here we have one, Abraham Vaz, jeweler, page 100. And then you have to look that page up. I always go for 100 and then add 3 pages. Or in the beginning, these registers are not numbered, and I hope that this will be page 103, and it's 100. So it needs a little, and then you go looking for Abraham Vaz.
No, you were right first time. It was.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Back one more page. Down.
You must be here.
Yeah, I think I saw him. Yeah.
Here he is.
Yeah. But very difficult for those of us who don't speak Dutch.
The 7th of September 1683, the gentlemen, orphanmasters, weesmeesteren, have declared to be guardian, voogd, over the 3 children of Abraham Vaz, jeweler, and their mother is Leah Vaz. And administrator is their uncle Jacob Vaz. And this is all, I believe, family of Michael Vaz.
Yes.
Oh. But you can also write an email to me and I can take a look for you.
It is incredible, though, at a time when Jews in most of the world were being treated so appallingly, that here in Amsterdam they had sort of fair legal process, even when they've got problems.
Yes, they had the same rights as everyone, with exceptions. They couldn't marry Christians. They couldn't become member of certain guilds. And when I mention guilds, that is another possibility, because the surgeons, the booksellers, bookbinders, and book printers, and the brokers, those guilds admitted Jews as members. And most of those are online.
Thank you. I mean, that's just a mountain of information. I don't know if anyone has any questions or comments. And I should say, I'm sorry. I'm not quite sure what happened at the beginning. Some people couldn't get in initially. We will upload the meeting to the Patreon site, so people can watch it again there. But if anyone has any questions or statements, speak now or forever hold your peace. Bernard, you had your hand up first. Do you want to unmute? Yeah.
First of all, Ton, thank you. It's kind of overwhelming. We had a Jewish Genealogy Society meeting this afternoon of the Dutch and Sephardic group, and I was telling them about the fact that it's possible to request that documents be digitized, and I didn't know what the procedure was, and told them to contact you if they needed documents digitized, but you've explained it at least to us. I don't think you'll get a lot of people coming your way, but some of the people who attended that this afternoon may. I have to thank you for the incredible amount of work you do, and for your amazing understanding of it. One thing which is a question for me is, how do you come across these links? How do you know that the items exist? Or is it enough just to put in a name search into the Gemeente archive and you get a listing of them? Just wanted to say, Soria, you asked about, is actually in northern Spain. And I wondered about the name Assam Bukhara. It sounds like a combination of two place names. Bukhara, which is in Uzbekistan, and Assam, which is in what would now be northern India. There was a largish Jewish community in Bukhara, which some people are doing research on. So I kind of wondered about that. And I had a very specific question about spelling. You showed various names, and a couple of them I noticed are names that are in my family tree, such as Hartog and Jong, but they ended with an H in the documents that you showed, and I'm used to them just ending with a G, and wondered if not putting in the H wouldn't make them unsearchable. And the other thing is the story of my life. You showed I think it was the Teixeira family lists, or the genealogies that are available and some that are being processed. And I noticed that the Pereira, which is the main line that I have been following for my family, is one of the ones that is waiting for future digitization. So it's good news, bad news. And could you tell us what was the date of that beautiful Tartas Costa tree that you showed us? Because I wondered when it was actually produced. It obviously is referring backwards. So anyway, that's all my questions and points, but thank you again. I'm full of admiration.
Thank you. Tartas de Castro, let's start with the last question because I remember that. It was made, I think, at the end of the 18th century and beginning of the 19th. And that is because the last names at the top lived around that period. But I can't be sure because there's no date on it. And it has also been taken out of context. As I explained, it has been taken from the dossier about the estate because someone liked it as a piece that he would have liked to have himself, I think. In other words, someone stole it. How do I find all these links? Well, partly because I'm an archivist, I know how archives work, where to look for. I've done a lot of research in the past, and I've been to a lot of archives, and well, that helps explain that. Remember me of one of your other questions. Astan Bugaro, that I don't know. Seems like a question for the Sephardic diaspora.
Right. Thank you. Bruce, you have your hand up.
Yeah, just really quick, Ton, what an expert system you are. And it's amazing to see what an expert system can do with these records. So again, applause. I'm curious as a lawyer, the interaction between the Sephardic community and the legal systems, whether it's for purposes of taxation or bankruptcy or criminal conduct. I mean, you've worked with these records. Are you sensing that the Sephardic community in Amsterdam was treated fairly well, periodically not so good, periodically so good? What do you feel from all these records that you handle all the time?
I think they were treated fairly well. But as I mentioned, there were some rights they didn't have. But they, well, first of all, it was a community within a community. So it had its own justice system, for example, the Beit Din. And Jews were expected to have their, if they had trouble with each other, to go to the Beit Din and have it sorted out there. But if they didn't like the answer of the Beit Din, then they went to the city administrators and got their rights there. And they were allowed to enter the justice system as complainants or trying to get the rights. And this went even up to the High Court of the Republic of the Seven Provinces. And there were actually quite a few conflicts that ended up there. I also think that they were subject to the everyday anti-Semitism that most Jews had to endure, being shouted at, being cursed at, being accused of certain actions because they were Jews. But there's not a lot of that, and it was relatively mild. Whatever decisions the Mahamat took, they took themselves, but if it went against city law, then they were reprimanded by the city. And sometimes the city reminded the Mahamat that Jews were not keeping to the law. For example, they had ketubah, the Jews, and they had to obey them. But at the same time, they had to register with city officials. They had to have a marriage ban. And the marriage ban legalized, as it were, their ketubah. without a marriage ban, if they went to a judge in a conflict and they could not show a marriage ban, then the ketubah didn't count. And there are some examples of that. At the same time, the Jews also went to notaries, especially the richer ones, and they had a prenuptial agreement. And in the prenuptial agreement, it says that the law of the city is more important than the law of the ketubah. And they put it in there themselves. But mostly there wasn't a conflict between those two, and the terms of the prenuptial agreement were more or less the same as the one of the ketubah. And there were other examples. Well, the Portuguese-Jewish community also had considerable power, and this comes to the forefront when there were troubles abroad. For instance, this Tartas was burned in Madrid, I believe. No, not in Madrid.
In Portugal.
In Portugal? No, in Spain. Or in Lisbon. Well, it doesn't matter. The Jewish community appealed to the city of Amsterdam, to the province of Holland, and to the States General. And all three wrote letters to the King of Spain, asking that Tartas would not be burned at the stake, and that justice would be served. So they had considerable diplomatic clout. Also in the case of New York, when Peter Stuyvesant tried to ban the Sephardic Jews from his city, he was corrected in this case by the Heren 19, the gentleman 19 of the old West Indian Company, and he was told that the Jews were allowed to settle in New York. So all in all, the position was not bad. And one other example, they built this big synagogue, and it stands out in the open. The Lutherans built a church, but they were not allowed to do the same. So their church is not recognizable as a church, and it did not have a tower like normal churches, and it did not have bells. So the Portuguese Jews were better off than the Lutherans in that respect.
Thank you. This was actually supposed to be a sort of a half meeting, but I see we've already gone to 1 hour 20, and I'm afraid even that was there was so much information. I think some of it perhaps we can return to at a future day in a bit more detail. Can I just give a couple of announcements of what we were also going to say today, that a date for everyone's diaries, the conference of the International Association of Jewish Genealogical Societies next year is going to be here in London from the 30th of July to the 3rd of August. There will be a call going out for speakers quite soon, and we're very keen that there should be quality Sephardic speakers rather than people talking about, you know, crypto-Jewish pirates and stuff like that, which they tend to favor or have historically tended to favor. Also, within the world of Jewish genealogy, on the Jewish Gen, which is one of the biggest sites, properties within Jewish genealogy, they have removed the so-called crypto-Jewish collection, which I certainly perceive as as a useful step forward in terms of getting everyone else to treat us on the basis of evidential research rather than fantasy. If I may personally apologise, I mean, for the last couple of weeks I've been fairly ill and unavailable. So I mean, obviously it's also been the high holidays, and we had sort of three Sundays off. But I apologise for that. And what we've done is we've suspended a month's contributions from patrons to make up for that, and we are really grateful for your support. We have an enormous number of things all sort of, we're paddling below the surface really fast. It's not completely apparent, but hopefully in a few months it will be, and we shall be back next week. It might also be a members only meeting at some point quite soon. We want to have a meeting looking at the whole world of crypto Judaism, and it's a sort of movement we feel, rather than proper genealogy. And I think it's something we need to understand because it impacts very much what we're doing. But Bernard, do you have your hand up, or is that just coincidental? Well, by all means, speak.
Thanks. It's while you're announcing things, and I don't like to announce competition, but I think you had something about it on the website, although I look at so many sites, I don't remember. The Cercle de Genealogy Juive in Paris is holding a 2-day, well, it's a 1-day conference,
Yeah.
but along with an exhibition on the 19th and 20th of November, I think. Obviously, the 20th will clash with anything that you might be doing, but I think that if people are interested, it might be worth looking at the program. It, I think, is only in person, but it looks like a very interesting program. So I throw that in.
No, thank you for that, because we've commented before that there's an enormous amount of excellent work being done in France, and we have obviously tried to integrate. I'm afraid our having a meeting in French, I'm afraid, wasn't as successful as we had hoped, but we will find ways in future to integrate. And we've had a number of French speakers, but I think especially for Jews, Sephardim in the Ottoman Empire and North Africa, I think they're streets ahead of us. So thank you for that. Ton, shall we close the meeting and order takeaway for supper?
Yes. Thank you very much all for watching. I apologize for being hesitative here and there, because it was all last minute. But I hope to see you all again next week. And as always, a big thank you to our patrons.
Thank you, and especially Tom, thank you for this evening. It was a tour de force. Anyway, we look forward to seeing everyone next week. Good night.
Good night.